listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast. I'm your host, Sana. And today's episode, listeners, it might just stretch your understanding of what it really means to live in alignment. Now, sometimes healing, it doesn't look like a doctor's visit or a green juice. Sometimes, it looks like hugging a stranger, or maybe your loved one, or walking barefoot in the woods because your gut told you to. Now, we are diving deep into the powerful, often misunderstood world of intuition and how it can guide us not only toward healing, but toward our truest, most alive selves. And listeners, joining me is Melinda Lee Schmitt. She's a empowerment coach, intuitive rebel, and author of Rebel Hugger. Now, after healing from MS and hugging thousands of strangers, yes, thousands, Melinda now supports divorced women in reclaiming their energy and rewriting their next chapter using a blend of intuitive wisdom, energy healing, and even animal communication. So, if you have ever doubted your gut feelings or like wondered if the path to your healthiest self could be a little more wild and a little less clinical, stick around because you are in for a ride. So, Melinda, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really excited and honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Sana. I feel the same.
Beautiful, beautiful. Melinda, so before exploring your journey,
Mhm.
let's talk about, intuition. So you say that it's like a compass that can guide us to healing. But what does listening to your intuition it really mean in the body? Like, is it like a feeling, like a flow, or a thought?
So I think it's different for everybody, but for me personally, I'm very body centered. So I absolutely feel my intuition in my body, and it feels like relaxation. It feels like peace. It feels like groundedness. It feels strong. But it's a very subtle sensation. So it's definitely taken practice, really honing what that sensation is versus comfort, say.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And you know, uh, you have gone through MS, and I mean, how did that look for you when you were facing the diagnosis, when you came to know about it? Did you have like an intuition that something was going to happen or something like that?
You mean before I was diagnosed or
Correct.
like at that time? Um, Yeah. I mean, when my fingertips, it started with my fingertips tingling. And as soon as that happened, yeah, there was absolutely something inside of me that was like, there is something really wrong. Like, this is not just a pinched nerve. This is not just like something simple. I knew something was really wrong. But, as we do, and as I had grown to know, Western medicine is the only type of medicine I've ever known. So
Mhm.
it was just an assumption that I would go to the doctor and I would get, the diagnosis. And when I did, following the doctor's orders based on how I needed to heal.
Mhm.
And it turned out that the medicine felt worse than the disease. So I needed a new path.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that realization it can like throw us off guard. But then one thing which I absolutely appreciate is that you held on to yourself and you started to probably do some research on it and figure out that apart from Western medicine, what other kind of options or channels or tools are available.
Yeah, so it was really interesting because it didn't happen so gradually. You know, I didn't start doing the research. I leaned into not only my intuition, but also in the trust that the universe has my back. So
Mm.
when I had this moment of realization that like the Western medicine wasn't working for me, I knew I had a different path. I just didn't know what that path looked like. And it was within the next week, I met someone who had healed her MS with diet. And so she gave me the name of her nutritionist, and the nutritionist was able to guide me out of the diagnosis through nutrition and through homeopathic remedies. And that really began my journey of discovering what else was out there so that I could continue this practice of healing myself rather than relying on the Western medications and Western traditions.
Mm. That makes sense. That makes sense. That is really empowering, Melinda.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, this is something I would love to know. I mean, you have literally hugged thousands of strangers, and in today's world, this may sound like a little, um, I don't know, out of the world for many of the people. And others might, say that it's uncomfortably vulnerable. Um, so what were you hoping to find or give through that experience? I mean, was there any specific moment that gave you the signal or hint?
That was something that I should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was looking for purpose in my life. I was kind of floundering. I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was amazing, and I loved it, but I wanted a little more. And so I was thinking about different blogs that I might be able to write, and it was my intuition that spoke up and was like, when I was kind of thinking about what it is that I love to do, my intuition was like, well, you love to love. And I was like, great. Well, what can I do with that? um, and that's when the idea kind of came through me. It didn't come from me. It kind of came through me of this idea that I could go out for an entire year for 365 days and hug everyone I encountered. And it really came from the desire to, one, feel a little more connected to the people around me, but also to feel like I'm sharing my love with others in the world. Because part of me thought, like, I love hugs. I know I'm missing hugs because I had moved from one state to another and I didn't know as many people. And I was like, if I'm missing that, maybe other people need that too. And so it was really born out of a desire to make other people feel good and share my love with them. The really interesting thing that I write mostly about in my book is the fact that at the end of the year, I actually felt more lost, alone, and depressed than ever.
Mm. Yeah, and I think this also sends a beautiful message about, community, that shared
Yeah.
experience and shared feelings, which is becoming more and more relevant, especially in, post-pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, because, you know, most of us, we are now either battling loneliness or kind of a detachment from, the um, love and attachment, with our neighbors or people around us or with the communities. Uh, so I think this also kind of brings that concept into limelight.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And it was through the pandemic that I was writing my memoir and really came to understand what that loneliness was about and why I had felt it. And that it really came down to a disconnection with myself and the need to really love myself.
Mm, definitely. And Melinda, since you mentioned about it, I mean, you have been through divorce
Mhm.
during the then you rebuilt it from the scratch, your life from the scratch, and now you coach others. Now, many of our listeners, including me as well, I'll be very, very, frank. In fact, right after pandemic, there have been certain events, of course, that includes a layoff, a sudden layoff, and then couple of events around there. And we have had our seasons of starting over. So where do you begin when, the gut feeling is like, silence, or it's like, everything is just crumbling over me. Let me just sleep through it, or let me just be still. I don't want to even think about it.
Yeah. Those are the really tough moments, but also I feel like those are the most transformational moments. And the most frustrating and honest answer I can give is that those are the moments to surrender, to recognize that in those moments there, when we're not hearing the intuition, when we're not feeling like there's anything that we can do in that moment, it's because we're being called to surrender to what is, which isn't always easy.
It is not. It is not. Especially if, all the things, all the changes, they're happening together.
hmm
Goodness, that's that's like a pressure cooker inside our minds.
Yeah. And I think that that's the power of the surrender because, you know, we have the opportunity to just let that pressure cooker build. And what I found is for me and really my clients and my friends, there's this moment, and we would call it this moment of like the volcano's about to erupt moment. There's this moment where it just feels like everything inside of us is just going to burst and like we're going to die almost. Like it feels so extreme. And the more I've surrendered into those moments and recognized them for what they are, there's belief systems and belief structures that are dying off. So there is this death that's happening inside of us. But when we can surrender to those moments and know that we're being held by the universe and we're constantly being guided, then when we come out the other side, we come out wiser and stronger and more aligned with who we came here to be.
I agree. I agree.
Mm.
Um, and of course, there are discussions and conversations. In fact, I have had many on intuition
Mhm.
over intellect, and this is something for the fact that even AI can't also replicate. So, do you ever think, Melinda, that intuition can be misleading? Like, especially when we are in a heightened emotional state, like grief or illness, or maybe from any heartbreak or divorce.
Yeah. So it's so nuanced that there's not a really easy and simple answer to that. But
Mhm.
what I will say is that I don't know that our intuition ever leads us. I know our intuition never leads us astray. It's whether or not we can discern if it's our intuition or if it's our story that we're listening to. And so when I am in my coaching practice, if I know that my client is in a state of distress, I often lead them to practices that allow them to discover their intuition through what I call baby steps. So I might invite them to just notice how they feel when they eat their favorite food, or notice how they feel when they are out for a walk in nature, and to recognize those small moments because intuition is going to feel more closely to that feeling than it will to a feeling of, oh, I have to, like if there's a hurried, strong response, that's typically not intuition.
Mm. So it's like it takes time. It is not immediate. It's not reactive.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, this is also one of my favorite part of understanding intuition. Now, you mentioned animal communication and nature-based rules, and for the fact that I've also learned, especially with horses. In
Yeah.
fact, now it's coming in the mainstream that horses, they have this innate capability, or it's somehow in them, gifted in them, that they can sense whether if we are communicating them um uh, with complete vulnerability, or we are
Uh-huh.
hiding some kind of pain or grief within us.
Yeah.
They can sense that. And that's such a beautiful relationship connection between animals and humans, in fact nature as well, whether it's water or forests or trees or plants. So for skeptics, how do you respond when someone says, oh my goodness, that's all woo woo, it's not very.
I mean, first I would say I used to think the same thing. um, and one of the stories that I really love sharing was this moment where I was in Montana. I was in the mountains, and I hadn't been horseback riding in maybe 20 years. And I felt really afraid. And I had been Listen, up until that point in my life, every time I went to go like pet a horse or say hi to like a dog or even a cat, a lot of times they would pull away from me and I couldn't understand it because like I love animals. Animals are everything. And I would get like so hurt by it. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And I had heard what you just said about how animals can see beyond what we're presenting. So they can see the truth that's within us that we may be trying to hide from them. So I realized that I wasn't being authentic in my own life. And so here I am at this ranch and I'm about to go horseback riding in the mountains, and I was really scared. And I decided to put into practice being my more of an authentic me. And I walked up to my horse and I said, listen, I'm really scared. I haven't ridden a horse in a really long time. I haven't been trail riding up through the mountains like this. I'm really scared, but I'm also excited. And I want to trust you, and I'm going to ask you to trust me too. And so I was just very authentic with my horse, and she guided and she did everything I asked her to do with no question. And we got to this moment where we're at the top of the mountain and we're on this very narrow trail, and there's a drop to the right of me, and there's a log that was going across the trail that all of the other horses were just kind of jumping over. And so I get up to the log with my horse and she's hesitant, like she didn't want to jump over it. And I'm sitting there and I'm terrified because our only option is to go around the log at the side where the steep drop was. And when I say that there was like no room to get around that, like maybe one hoof could have like been on the side of that log. It was terrifying. And the other side was the face of the mountain. So there was literally no way to go around on the left side. And she kept pulling like she wanted to go around the log instead of over the log. And I was like, you know what? My voice was like shaking, like it still is now, just reliving it. And I was like, you know what? I'm terrified, but I told you that I would trust you and you've been trusting me. So I will follow you. And so she went around the log and we made it safely. And it was just the most like empowering, connecting, just validating moment.
Yeah, that is so it's like miraculous. It's like, God sent
Yeah.
kind of, savior moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would argue that that was really the beginning of a return to myself and a return to my most authentic nature.
Wow, wow. That's absolutely out of the world. Yeah, I think uh, we I mean, these are the times when we kind of uh, not anymore appreciate the goodness that is there in the world, but at
Yeah.
least, animals, they still remind us of the human elements, which is surprising actually.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, and of course, Melinda, before we wrap up this conversation around intuition, if anyone who is listening to this episode, whether they are navigating illness or heartbreak, or they are just wondering that um, is there more to life than this, if they would like to connect with you, what would be the best way?
The best way would be through my website, which is melindaleeschmidt.com.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have the link and all the details in the show notes. And
Thank you.
I believe this conversation, it has been a part gentle nudge and a kind of, a soul wake up call as well. Whether it's through mindfulness or through trusting our own intuition, or even trusting our lovely, animal friends' intuition. I think to remember that our body, our soul are knowing. It's they are all whispering. So thank you so much, Melinda, for reminding us, and for your beautiful insights, for sharing a few moments from your journey. And thank you. This has been beautiful.
Thank you so much, Sana. This was an amazing interview. I appreciate you.
Lovely. And yeah, Melinda, your book, Rebel
Yes.
Hugger, if our listeners, they would like to check it out, what would be the best way? I just missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on my website, but also it can be found on Amazon, Rebel Hugger, and it does detail more of the journey of becoming my most authentic self.
Beautiful. I'll make sure to mention that as well. And to all the listeners out there, whether you are navigating illness, heartbreak, or the toughest moments of your life, maybe this episode is your sign to tune inwards, to trust what doesn't always make sense on paper or on your laptop or on your phone. Until next time, this is your host Sana, and this is Mindful Living, where healing is real, messy, and yours to define. Thank you.
Thank you so much.